Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to talk to you today about an important, outstanding American composer of the 20th century, one you probably never heard of, William Grant Still. After presenting an overview of his early professional life, I'll focus my presentation on Still's activities as a Hollywood film composer. And film music is one of my research areas. That's why I'm interested in this. Still began his professional career in 1919 when he was offered a job to work with W.C. Handy in New York City, an incredible opportunity. While living in New York City, Still pursued parallel careers in popular music and classical concert music. He quickly became a fixture in the thriving literary musical environment of the Harlem Renaissance. He performed in the pit orchestra of Noble Sissle and U.B. Blake's hit Broadway musical Shuffle Along, all 504 performances. He served as musical director of the record label Black Swan Records. He worked as a band member, arranger, and tour manager for W.C. Handy. And he regularly made arrangements for notable musicians such as Paul Whiteman and his giant green piano. Working with the best musicians and artists of his times, these are incredible accomplishments for a man in his late 20s. It would have been an easy choice to continue building his career in New York City in popular music. But Still had his sights set on composing concert music, and more specifically, concert music whose African-American character was clearly recognizable to white audiences. His belief, along with others in the Harlem Renaissance, was that the path toward racial equality was through the arts. Still's works from the early 30s, most notably his Afro-American Symphony, marks his professional emergence into the world of symphonic concert music. And for a short period of time, he and two other black composers, William Dawson and Florence Price, found success. All three premiered their symphonies within several years of each other. In 1936, Still was signed to a 6-month contract as a composer and orchestrator for Columbia Pictures in Hollywood. In a letter to his daughter, Gail, written in June 6, 1936, Still writes, "I've recently gotten a job at one of those studios. The salary is not large, but enables me to meet expenses. I do not enjoy the work. I find it quite taxing and am bothered with my nerves because of it." There were several possible reasons why Still did not enjoy the work, not least was the studio industry's racist environment. While it's notable that he was the first African American to compose scores for Hollywood films, he was not given the respect or consideration that a man of his caliber deserved. Given his musical experiences in New York City, Still easily adapted to the fast-paced production demands. His film music is of a high quality, in my opinion, on the same level as Max Steiner, Alfred Newman, Herbert Stothart, and others. I'll focus my presentation on the music he composed for the screwball comedy Theodora Goes Wild. This movie tells the story of the residents of a small Connecticut town who are outraged by a risque novel being published serially in the town's newspaper. They are unaware that the book was written under a pseudonym by the church organist and Sunday school teacher Theodora, played wonderfully by Irene Dunne. As with almost every Hollywood film, much of the narrative is driven by the romantic coupling of the two main characters of the film, Theodora and Michael. And if very typical for a Hollywood film of this period, there's a love theme associated with the couple. For the remainder of my presentation, I'll track its appearance throughout the film. So the love theme first appears in the New York City apartment scene, and I've divided it into 3 sections. Theodora travels to New York City to see her publisher, Arthur Stevenson. His wife pressures him into an introduction, which the book's illustrator, Michael, overhears. Intrigued, Michael invites himself to dinner with the Stevensons and Theodora. Theodora becomes annoyed when Michael smugly assumes that she's a teetotaler, so she orders herself a whiskey, and then another, and another. After a few dances, Michael brings her to his Park Avenue apartment. The music of this scene offers a delicious confusion of diegetic and non-diegetic registers. Let me explain these terms. Music that is part of the story world, such as a radio or dance orchestra, is called diegetic or source music. Music that does not have an on-screen source is referred to as non-diegetic or the underscore. This scene opens in Michael's apartment. The camera pans left across a large room, stopping at the entrance door. During the camera shot, we hear soft music played by the strings. Since the lights are off and no one's at home, there's little reason to hear this music as coming from a radio or a phonograph. We hear it as an underscore, setting up the entrance of Michael and Theodora. The music continues as they enter the apartment. Hesitant, she stops before entering the main room. The music hesitates as well, prolonging the dominant of D major. "Aren't you coming in?" Michael asks. She regains her confidence and walks into the main room to a restatement of the opening melody. A descending harp glissando accompanies her gasp when she sees Michael's etching of a nude woman. A new melody in a lower register underscores Michael's description of the etching, Eve and the serpent. Part 1, as you'll hear, concludes with a half cadence in G major as Michael removes her coat.
Here we are, my dear, my own little nest. Aren't you coming in?
Dominant prolongation.
Naturally.
There she goes.
Lovely place, Michael. So inspired.
Coming from an expert, that's something.
Me?
Yes, I was referring to the apartment you wrote about. You know, what's his name's place where Pamela was lured.
Oh, yes. Poor little Pamela. Are these your etchings?
Mm-hmm. The poor thing is of my own. Here's my latest, most ambitious work. Almost finished. Eve and the serpent.
It's charming, perfectly charming.
I'll take your coat. Aren't you going to stay for a while?
Actually,
Perhaps you don't want to stay.
why not?
Oh, I don't know. This hour of the night, bachelor apartment.
The love theme enters immediately after Theodora turns on the lamp. The music is from the song "Be Still My Heart," written 2 years earlier. The theme's entrance is rather prominent. It's a new melody that we haven't heard before. The instrumentation, a muted trumpet, is new, and it's been prepared by the end of the previous scene by a half cadence. The music's prominence sets up an unusual conversation. Theodora asks, "Some soft music would be nice, don't you think?" Michael replies, "As a matter of fact, it's been playing all the time." The joke's on her, but it's on us as well. We assumed all along that the music was non-diegetic, an underscore that only we could hear. Film characters aren't supposed to hear the underscore. But apparently, Michael can, forcing us to reassess the status of the music. It makes some sense that Michael can hear romantic music because he wants to initiate a romantic interlude with Theodora, because he knows she's bluffing, pretending to be an experienced woman of the world when she's not.
Still full of peculiar notions about me, aren't you? Some soft music would be nice, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, it's been playing all the time.
Charming. Charm.
Drink?
Yes, I was just going to suggest that.
Scotch.
Scotch.
As Michael makes another scotch, she gets up from the couch and begins to walk around his apartment. A restatement of the love theme accompanies her. When she steps into an adjoining room and realizes that it's his bedroom, she suddenly stops and retreats to the other room. In a moment of complete audio-visual synchronization, the music also stops, and then shifts to a tempo as she retreats. The sinister D-flat minor chord underscores Michael's lustful gaze as he goes in to call her bluff. The scene ends with frantic music as she runs for the door. Is the music of this scene diegetic or non-diegetic? Clearly, it would be impossible for music from a radio or record player to capture these musical visual synchronizations. But why should cinematic reality conform to the same laws and principles as our reality?
But you're going to get a drink. Maybe I'd better go. I guess it is getting pretty late.
Late? Why, the evening's just begun, darling. Did I tell you how beautiful you look tonight, Caroline?
No.
You do. You're adorable.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare. You stay right where you are. You come over, step, I'll scream. I'll scream. You hear it? You keep away from me. Let me get one thing. My ticket home. You keep away from me. No. I'll get police. And after you, I will. I'll get police. You stay where you are. You stay where you are.
Smitten, Michael tracks her to her hometown and coerces her into hiring him as a gardener. As he gets ready for bed in a guest house, he begins to whistle really loudly, which annoys Theodora and her aunts. In a battle of the bands, Theodora goes to the piano and bangs out the keys. This only encourages Michael, which in turn makes Theodora try harder. She sits down and plays as fast and loudly as she can the opening of Be Still My Heart. When that doesn't work, she regroups with a wonderful performance of the song, which, as the song progresses, creates a romantic bond between Michael and Theodora. In the end, though, Michael continues his shenanigans, which results in an unfortunate and somewhat disturbing incident with a cat.
Be still, my heart. I can tell who's knocking at my door. Love has come to say that we must part. Be still, my heart. Just breathe those eyes. Bending lips that don't know where to start. Be still, my heart. He hears the rumbling of the drum. It bids him come, he must go. He's leaving me and leaving you for someone new. And though we miss him so, we'll never let him know. Don't cry, my heart. Even though our love has gone away, he'll be coming back to us someday. Be still, my heart.
Yes, Theodora goes wild. Despite themselves, Theodora and Michael find themselves falling in love with each other. The church ladies of the town disapprove of Theodora spending time with them. It all comes to a boil at the Women's Literary Circle meeting, where Theodora unleashes her fury and tells the women what she really thinks of them, and that she is in love with Michael. When she tells Michael this, Michael is less than thrilled. The love theme enters when she affirms her love for him. Drawing on the conventions of love scenes, the music tells us that despite Michael's reticence, the love between them is real, and that whatever stands in their way of their union will, by the end of the movie, be overcome. The obstacle here, which at this point we're unaware, is that Michael is trapped in a loveless marriage, because his father, the governor of New York, has asked him to stay in the marriage until after the election so as to avoid a political scandal. Even though Michael loves Theodora, Michael is unable to stand up to his father. And it's beautiful, underscored. Notice the lush, deceptive move to D major at the moment they kiss. It's magic.
This is a free country, I said. I'm over 21, and what I choose to do is none of Linfield's business. I invite the whole town to take a jump in the lake.
Swell.
That gardener's going to stay here as long as I want him to, I said. And that's forever, because I love him. What's Linfield going to do about that? I love him. I always will. And there's nobody in this town who's going to stop me.
Swell.
That's what I said, Michael. It was the truth.
Swell.
I was thrilled to hear myself say it. Right then I knew I never could have sent you away.
When you finally did let go, you certainly rocked the world, didn't you?
Yes, you and I have a lot of things to talk about.
Yes, I guess we have. We better not start tonight, though.
Are you proud of me, Michael?
I'll tell the world, baby.
Really? And Uncle John said nobody in Linfield would ever call me baby. Good night, darling.
The next morning, Theodora discovers that Michael has gone back to New York City. She tracks him to his Park Avenue apartment, where he admits he loves her and tells her the reason why he left, and that they'll have to wait a year before they can get back until they can be together. Not wanting to wait that long, Theodora decides to take matters into her own hands. She crashes the governor's ball and arranges for reporters to photograph her embracing Michael. When Michael's wife later sees the photos in the newspaper, she seeks a divorce to save face. In the apartment scene we first watched, it was Michael who made the advances, calling her bluff, and it was he who heard the music. The ballroom scene inverts these positions. Theodora is the one making the advances, and it is she who notices the love theme. And here we have another interesting case of diegetic ambiguity. The music in the ballroom is, of course, source music. A small orchestra provides music for the dancers. While the music heard in the garden is tethered to the ballroom, it is composed and mixed not as utilitarian dance music, but rather as music responsive to the emotional undertones of the scene. Still thereby engages in a sleight of hand by swapping functions from source to underscore during a continuous sequence.
Remember the tune, Mr. Brown? Shall I sing it and you whistle?
So much as open your mouth. How did you get in here?
If that isn't the funniest thing, I said to myself, I bet Michael's going to ask me how I got in here.
How did you get in here?
Michael's dear, this is hardly the place.
You tell me.
Well, the Stevensons had invitations and decided not to come, so I just said to myself, well, that's my elbow.
That is in your neck.
Just one more.
I'm sorry. I've just met the lady with whom I've been connected so much in the papers, and I'd like to make her acquaintance. I'd also like the privacy of the garden for a few moments. If you don't mind. Well, go right ahead. Right ahead. Don't catch cold. You're here to start something. What are you going to do?
Do?
Don't tell me. Wherever you are these days, something happens.
Why, Michael?
Now, listen to me, Theodore.
So here the
If you
music
cause any scandal,
becomes the
I'll
underscore.
never speak to you again in this lifetime. That also goes if you aren't out of this house in 2 minutes. It also goes if you aren't out of my apartment outside of New York in 2 days. Is that clear?
You know that big speech?
I mean every word of it.
That I'm to go back to Linfield
To Linfield.
and wait?
And wait.
This is goodbye, Michael.
Yes, but there's no need to go to pieces, especially here.
Oh, I'm all right. I'll go. I'll go back. But I would like to have something to remember you by.
Sure, anything.
A kiss?
Not here. When I see you off, I'll come down to the train.
But you won't. You'll be afraid.
No, yes, I will.
Well, you won't.
But I will.
Thank you, Miss Allen.
Why, you low-life snakes.
So a postscript. Still was unceremoniously fired while working on the next film, Lost Horizon. Fox Studios approached him in 1943 to work as music director in the film Stormy Weather. According to Still, the plans were for a portion of the picture to have to do with the achievements of colored Americans in music. When I got there, I found out that was not so. It was all popular music, so that there was very little for me to do. The heads of the various departments came forth with a strange idea that to be authentic Negro music should be crude and Negro dancing should be erotic. Several weeks into production, Still resigned. The next day, he penned an editorial explaining his actions. I did this for musical and personal reasons, and my conscience would not let me accept money to help carry on the tradition directly opposed to the welfare of 13 million people. We all rise together, or we don't rise at all. Thank you very much.